Hey guys, I just wanted to make a quick video talking about air hole modification, volts, amps, resistance, and wattage, and how they are tied together, and how that relationship will increase your vape experience. Well, it has. Let me just speak for myself. Which that how that relationship has increased my vape experience, just knowing how that works, and yeah, let me just start off with a draw on my RSST. So yeah, I'm currently got a 1.2 ohm coil wrapped on this. I know you can't see it. Just please take my word for it. I got a 1.2 ohm coil wrapped on this, which any Vamo users know that that's the absolute lowest resistance you can get on this. And in my previous videos, I talked about my sweet spot was around like 17 watts, going at like maybe around 4.5 volts or so, and that was pushing it. And then I noticed that I was cutting down to like around 4.2, 4.3 volts, sometimes even 4.0 volts, uh, with the 1/16 inch air hole. I have since modded all my air holes to 5/64 of an inch, and that's why I'm running now at 5.2 volts. It's a direct relationship. That's not a coincidence that I increased the air hole size and am able to now comfortably vape at a voltage level higher than 5 watts, 5 volts rather. So the reason for that is as as you increase voltage on any given atomizer, your coils are going to get hotter. You know, my coils got hotter as I'm increasing voltage. So I was happy with the 1/16 inch air hole, and then I realized, like, I want more vapor. I am a vapor hound. I like chasing the clouds of vapor, and flavor is also quite important to me. But vapor is the most important. Just below that is the flavor. That's just me. I think 90% of people out there, and even people watching, probably it's probably the other way around. Flavor is first and vapor is second. I tend to be one of those where it's the opposite, and I know I'm not alone in that as well. So, um, yeah, so I increased everything to 5/64 of an inch, and this allows more air to be hit to the coil. I mean, it's kind of intuitive if you think about it in simple terms. If you got more air hitting a hot uh, device, or coil rather, it's gonna cool it more. I mean, it's simple. If I got a pinpoint air hole like zero point 0.8 millimeters and I crank this thing to 5.2 volts, that sucker is gonna get hot well before the tiny amount of air that's coming in. As hard as I'm drawing, because it's limited by that air hole, as hard as I'm drawing, even lung hitting, it's going to get hot. And in my experience, that's exactly what happened. So drilling it out to 5/64 of an inch, just on my own test result, it made me go from 4.3-ish volts or 4.5 volts maximum to now I can crank this thing up to 5.5 volts and still not get a harsh heat from the coils glowing because of lack of air to cool it down. And that also, I mean, if you have an exceptionally good wick, maybe that might eliminate it, and you could get away with running it so hot with a 1/16 air hole or even a smaller air hole. But in my experience, increasing the air hole size has allowed me to increase the voltage. See, that was at 5.5 volts, a short-ish draw compared to my last one, but you can still see. I mean, it's a good amount of vapor. It's not that bad at all. It's not that bad at all. It's not like you're gonna get if you have like a dripping Addy with a super low resistance with two holes, 2 millimeters or what have you. I mean, you're gonna get more vapor, but this I'm just talking about modification is done to maximize Vamo's ability or any variable voltage device. Uh, this has a 5 amp limit, and let me just talk about that for a second. So, with stacked batteries, you can really push this Vamo. With stacked batteries, you can really push this Vamo. I know people run one 18650 cell in this, but that I believe it capped me off. I noticed like after I hit 4.3, 4 point in that range of voltage, any subsequent increase in voltage that I made, the vapor production was not as much. And that's because with one cell running, whether it's an 18350 or 18650, the Vamo just does not. It has a, I guess, a lower cutoff for the amps, and that's because once you get over 4.3 volts, even on a freshly charged battery, you got 4.2 volts, ideally, right? So you're gonna have to use that boost circuitry to make up for that difference. And obviously, after a few vapes, and when you settled in, you're gonna be around 3.7, 3.9 volts. And if you want to get maximum vapor, you're gonna push this puppy to over 4 volts. So you're gonna have to use that boost circuitry, and that's why I believe, I'm not entirely sure. This is just all from what I've seen, and a lot of it is speculation, I guess. That the amp limit is there, but when you're running stacked batteries, right now, what do I have on this? I got 7.5 volts. On this battery right now, freshly charged at 8.2 on this particular set of AW 350s. So with that, now the Vamo's got to use a lot less. Now it's got a reserve of voltage to work with. It's just got to cut it. So even when this battery is next to dead, when it's at 6.4 volts, this thing fires to the last minute with no drop off in vapor production at all. So I do not understand why people don't use stacked batteries. I mean, it's a safety thing. That I understand. I mean, once something happens to this, I'll come back and make a video like, whoops, something, I fried my Vamo, I got hurt, or I killed my atomizer. I understand that, but it's a risk I'm taking, and for the last month and a half or so, it's been working, and maybe I'm just lucky. But I do know a lot of people that do it. I've read about it extensively. But yeah, you're using the bucking option on this to really crank out the voltage. So when I'm volting at 5.5 volts, I know I'm getting very close to that voltage because the battery has 7 volts plus on it. So there's not that much work that the Vamo needs to do. But yeah, this air hole thing has allowed me, and I'm repeating it again, just because I'm so fascinated by how much it has improved my vape experience by just drilling out the air hole a little bit bigger. I still have a little bit of a draw, like when I'm drawing. I still it's not like just inhaling air. It's not like sucking through a straw. Like I still feel a little tightness in my chest trying to draw out of a 2 millimeter air hole. But to a lot of people, it will feel like you're sucking out of a straw when you compare it to a point 0.8 millimeter air hole. If that's what you're used to, when you switch over to this or you try anybody's device that's got a 2 millimeter air hole, you're going to feel like this is absolutely zero resistance. But people like my girlfriend, she tried a 564. She tried my Agate 2 with the 564s, and she absolutely loves it. She's like, wow, the flavor is amazing. The flavor does increase. Why people are under this assumption that flavor does not increase with increased air hole size, it's beyond me. Let me just talk a little bit more about that. And before I do that, I'll just switch over to the Agate 2, which is running on empty. It's running on empty. This one also, just like the RSST, it's a 1.2 ohm coil. Both have 28 gauge Canthal. The RSST, because it has a fatter wick, is a 5.4 wrap, metering out to the same thing as this, which has a 6.5 wrap. So, yeah, let me just give it a little tilt, because there's not that much juice in there. Have a vape. Yeah. It's so clean and no burnt taste because I'm getting that air to cool the coil and it's still warm. It's not hot. There's a difference between hot and hitting your throat in a bad way because it's not the nicotine hitting your throat and giving you that throat hit. It's burning hot. That is something that I try to avoid, and with the increased air hole, eliminated. The threat is neutralized. When I had a 1/16th air hole, getting even close to 5 volts, it would mean that I would have to deal with that hot air. But yeah, what was I saying before? Right. So, an increased air hole size, it's going to give me less resistance, right? But it's enough for me, and I'm very comfortable with it. But the flavor is impeccable, right? That's like I said, that's what my girlfriend said, and she's used to cardamizers. She will smoke vape a cardomizer all day at work, come home, and then try one of these and be floored. She's like, "Why can't I have this?" And I said, because you're not going to be able to roll this coil by yourself. I mean, you could use it, but she's completely blown away with the flavor, and as am I. Um, and this is probably also because I'm able to run at a higher voltage. When you crank up your voltage, a lot of people say there's a sweet spot, but I found that the higher I increase my voltage, the more flavor I'm able to extract from the juice. So if it's burning off hotter, I get that flavor to really get enhanced. But if I had a small air hole, I apologize if I'm sounding redundant, but I kind of want to drive this point home. If I have a smaller air hole, I'm gonna get the hot taste. I'm not gonna get the flavor of the juice. I'm just gonna get the coil burning. So, yeah, I think I've made myself pretty clear and redundant, but I feel like it's one the single best modification I made. I thought the 1/16th air hole was a great modification, but like I said, the added benefits of just going to 5/64ths for me, increased vapor production, which is my number one thing, increased flavor, which is my number two thing, and an ability. And I guess this one leads to the first two points, is that I'm able to run at a higher voltage. So that increases the vapor and increases the flavor as well. So it's a win-win for me on all counts. And the resistance and airflow, like that sensation I get, like I still feel that I'm not inhaling air. I'm inhaling through a device, and there is some resistance, and that's just for me personally. Um, so now I'm going from about 17 watts to vaping at 21 watts or so, or 22 watts or so. And if anybody wants to calculate that real quick, say if you got 4.8 volts on a 1.2 ohm coil, to figure out your amps, you just divide your voltage by your resistance. So 4.8 divided by 1.2, you're going to have 4 amps. Then if you want to further find out what your wattage is, you have that amp rating now based on your voltage to resistance, and you obviously know what voltage you're set at. So you take your voltage, multiply it into your amps. 4.8 times 4 is 19.2 watts. So I was getting well below that with the smaller air hole. Now I got 5.5 volts is what I've just been drawing at the last few draws, and that's well over 21, 22, probably even 23 watts. So, all in all, excellent modification that I made. And, it's also dependent on your wicking coils. This one has a hollow wick, and the RSST has a solid wick that's bigger. This one's like 2.7 millimeters. That one's about 3.5 millimeters. But, with the tilt, it is wicking. There's pretty much no juice in there. It's just, if I hold it like this, you can't even see it. But I'll take one last vape and show you how it goes. And thanks a lot for watching and listening for those who actually made it through the whole video. And, vape on. Oh yeah, one last thing. With the one negative, and I'll leave this to the end, obviously. The one negative with the increased air hole is that I found that the vapor is slightly less dense. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would have just assumed or figured out anyway, but I noticed that just because I like to blow O-rings. And in my previous videos, you could see that every time I take a draw, I usually blow at O-rings. And with this, it's just a little bit more difficult to do. I mean, you see them there, but it was a lot easier to do with a 1/16 inch air hole. But that's a trade-off, and with all the benefits that I explained, I'll take that. So, anyways, thanks for watching, and yeah, thank you.